The added pressure of perfection. So everyone's talking about us, obviously three-peat JD, and it's not often you can talk to someone who experienced going 9-0 in an NFL season like you did in 2003. So the Chiefs have done this 3 times. We've been 7-0 going throughout the season. 2013, 2024, and 2003, where JD was the first Chiefs team to go this far of a season going undefeated. But JD, obviously we know three-peat, the number one thing on our mind. It's been the number one thing on Pat's mind since we won back-to-back last year. First comment, one of the mic'd up comments you hear is, I want three of these things. So it's like, okay, well, there you go. But right now we're currently training towards an undefeated season. Now, obviously we got week by week, but you went 7-0, JD. And obviously the question is, you always hear like, oh man, can they go perfect? Can they get perfect? That's always the thing. Can the team be perfect? Last team right now to do it. And I want to know, and a lot of people have been wanting to know what goes through the mind in a locker room when a team is getting to this point where it's like, obviously you go 2-0, 3-0. That's been done a million times. But you go 7-0, that's where you're like trending towards something historic potentially. How does that kind of, those echoes and those whispers of talking about being perfect, how does that impact the locker room? Or is that something you guys are talking about on a consistent basis? Like, oh man, we can do this? Or is that just, you guys just going out week to week? You're not even thinking about going 16-0 or 17-0. You're not even thinking about that.
Well, first off, let me address Amder Brown with the $50, man. Appreciate it, my brother. Thank you so much for that donation given to us, man. Thrown to us, man. Appreciate that. We'll take it for the little anniversary and all that, man. Thank you so much. Well, I tell you what, we the way that we approach it is we just, if you concentrate on those things, man, you'll lose sight of what it is that you're actually trying to do. And I think with the Chiefs, they just want to take it one game at a time. I don't think it's being undefeated is one of those things that, you hear these teams always talk about trying to, surpass, the Miami Dolphins. And it's a wonderful thing, to be, thought about in that same vein of a team that way. But we've seen what happened to, New England. New England was trying to do the undefeated season, got up there, and then ended up losing the Super Bowl. And so I think once you take the focus on just winning one game at a time, and then the main thing being winning the Super Bowl, you start worrying too much about like trying to be perfect. And for our guys, I think it's the furthest thing from their mind. And you just can't let that creep in. You come out of it and you come unscathed and you are perfect. Beautiful. That's a beautiful thing, right? And you kind of, and I don't think you really worry about it until you actually get to like those last games and say, oh my gosh, we can actually do it right now. But when you're sitting over here at 7-0, hey, there's a lot of football need to be played. There's a lot. And so we know also too, toward the end of the year, if you're doing such a great job, it's not about, like I said, the perfection. It isn't. Because Andy will probably rest his guys when you know that you need to go deep in the playoffs. The three-peat is another thing that hasn't been done. It just hasn't been done. So we know the Dolphins have done their thing as far as being undefeated. The Chiefs had something that actually go into history of being a three-peat team that won 3 Super Bowls all, consecutively in a row. If we get that, we go into that, that's going to be the beautiful thing. We'll be the only one on top of it. And so I think that is something that, Marcus, that we're shooting for. That right there trumps everything. It just does. Okay, that is the pinnacle. So if that in that time, if we happen to be undefeated doing it, so be it. But I don't even think myself. I don't think we're gonna go undefeated this year. I just don't. I think just in the course of a season, it's very hard to do, especially when we've seen like the obviously the type of injuries we've had so far. Games can be close. Teams can, come out and beat you. Any given Sunday, these things can happen. They really can. But I don't think that is a main thing we need to go ahead and worry about, though, Marcus, at least for me. And we didn't worry about that when we were 9-0 when I was playing. So
is that more of like, obviously I've never been in an NFL locker room as a player. Is that more as a media kind of talking point? Oh, undefeated. Like, oh, you can do something that the Dolphins did. That's more of a media talking about. You guys are just going like, We have the Buccaneers this week. We have the Raiders next week. We have the Chargers next week. That's literally all in your mind. You don't really, you're a week. You guys are week to week. You aren't even talking about the historic nature of what you guys could do, right? That's pretty much just a media talking point.
It's more of a media talking point. I'm sure when you ask the guys like, yeah, great, man. This is where we are right now, but we just worried one game at a time. That's all that matters. It's the next game, getting over to the next game, and everybody coming out, hopefully healthy. But that is going to be the main thing. So I see Mike Brennan says, so come week 18 and KC is 16-0, we sit our starters, even if KC has a bye week locked up. I think you do. I think, you know what, Mike, and I thought about that too, because there is a thing where you can rest guys too much. But let's just say that you're getting them the practice that they need during that time. And then in the game, you don't really put them in harm's way. You want a guy to make sure you can have to control as much of, things that can happen to you as possible. We know in some games, teams, how they play, they can be dirty toward the end. And I've seen several games. Matter of fact, I'll give you a case and scenario. At EKU was our homecoming. One of the guys we keep talking about was a quarterback before I got there. Okay. And he was known to take EKU deep in the playoffs. Matter of fact, EKU probably should have won the national championship that year. Lorenzo Fields is his name, quarterback. And put him in the game where EKU was beating them, handedly, like if the game was out of reach. Well, he ends up going back in because the team ended up scoring like 2 touchdowns, getting back and, closer to where Eastern was beaten. I think they was down by like 4 touchdowns. Well, the opposing team scores 2 touchdowns, still down by 14, but we put our starting quarterback in.
Come on, baby, go. Yes! That's a first down. This football season, I'll be putting down normal sodas like Coca-Cola for Olipop. Olipop offers a healthier alternative with its low sugar content and natural ingredients. Olipop is more than just a drink. It's a wellness companion that supports your digestive health. Packed with prebiotics, this fizzy elixir helps promote good bacteria in your gut, leading to improved digestion and overall well-being. So go ahead, click the link in the description and use promo code SODALOVE and get your can of Olipop so you can enjoy the game guilt-free. Go Chiefs. Use the promo code SODALOVE for 15% off now.
Lorenzo goes down, scores a touchdown. Why he scored a touchdown? The guy pulls him back from behind. And he tears his ACL, MCL, happy triad. And he was done. So Eastern ends up losing the national championship because a quarterback goes in toward the end of the season where he shouldn't have been in the game. And not only that, he had a chance to go to the NFL and didn't get to going to the NFL because of the injury he had also. So I don't want to put anybody in harm's way. Those guys that we put in, hopefully they could carry the boat for us. Hopefully they'll be able to, sit there and say, well, shoot, if we need to play, all the backup wide receivers or the defensive ends or corners and whatnot, those guys can handle it. I'm going to put my money on Carson to do the things he can do. I think he can do that. So I just don't feel like putting guys out there, especially if in a position where they could possibly get hurt. I want to give them as much rest as possible. So for that, you sit them down for that week. The very next week, you get them back practicing, get their legs back going for where they need to go. Practice them hard, okay? Practice them hard, but take away the hits, and then you come in the game, man, and then you just go from there. So I think that's how you handle it, Mike. That's my assessment of it. So
I will say, I remember that the Patriots season when they went undefeated, or regular season they went undefeated. They played the Giants week 17 of that season. That was a meaningless game for them, but that was a really great game because we saw the Giants gave a good fight for that game, and then obviously we saw the rematch a couple weeks later in the Super Bowl. But they played everybody that game, They wanted the capture that. And I don't know the details behind it. I'm sure it was kind of like a team vote kind of thing. Because Belichick doesn't care about that stuff. Belichick just wants to win the Super Bowl. He doesn't really care about any of those regular season games. But as far as I think I say Don Peterson, is that something that a team would do? For example, I mean, you had plenty of buys during your career. Would that be a thing where like Vermeil or a coach would, hey guys, like, do you guys want to play a little bit of this game? Some of you guys may need incentive or bonuses to hit certain contractual things. Would coaches leave it up to the players, the team captains, to kind of like ask the guys about that kind of stuff? If this becomes a thing where we are undefeated going to that last week of the season,
I think so. And I think it all depends. It's all situational, right? So if a guy sitting over there is a head coach, like Chris Jones, right? He needed to get his bonus. And so Andy was like, look, you only got this last series for you to make it happen. You don't make it this last series, man, you're going to sit down, right? And so Chris had to make it happen, and he did. But certain ones, you just got to know, like, look, I'm going to protect you from yourself. And sometimes they take coaches to pull guys back, like, look, man, there's no reason for you to go in. Same thing with Travis, was talking about last year, trying to get, I guess what it was, 100 catches or whatever, or 1,000 yards. That was it, 1,000 yards consecutively. And Travis was like, hey, man, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, so be it, whatever. And he was fine with it. He was fine with it because sometimes it's just not about the accolades and whatnot. Incentives, sure, especially if they're doable at the time. If some have to deal with playing incentive, maybe. Get a guy maybe one snap so he can get it. Like if you had to play all games for an incentive to get $100,000 or whatever it may be, sure, we put you in for one snap. Bring your tail back. Get on the sideline. I don't want to hear no more else about it. Have a seat. Let them young bucks play or whoever else. They let them on their stripes too because they get paid as well. They get paid as well. And so Broncos is the last game of the season. Marcus, is that who it is? So
yeah, I believe so.
Man, we could beat the Broncos. We could beat with our other guys. And so you usually employ guys because they're good enough. They're in the NFL. They can get those things done. Carson Wentz could definitely get those things done. I see somebody say throw the ball up to Ross. Sure. Absolutely. Sure. Why not?
Yeah. I will say the only thing I'd be concerned about is the reserves, the O-line reserves. That'd be the one thing I'd be scared about getting Carson Wentz killed back there with the other reserves. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing I'd be kind of concerned about. Because I mean, we've seen it before. Backup QBs, very, very important, especially in the playoffs. We've seen it. Henny came ahead and make a few, big comebacks for us. As our quarterback when Pat's gone down. So God forbid anything happens to Carson Wentz behind the reserves offensive line, because that'd be something I'd be scared about. If that were the case.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So.
But yeah, so I guess week to week. So the undefeated stuff, I've seen so many people talking about that. And I was like, the perfect person to ask that question to is a guy who went 9-0 in the NFL. Obviously you guys lost to Cincinnati that heartbreak of a game. As a Chief fan, I was heartbroken. I'm sure everybody in the chat was heartbroken for that game. Losing to Chad Johnson, cocky old Chad, and then I'm sure you guys were okay. Let me ask you this though: losing that game, did that take away a little bit of pressure? Obviously, you guys weren't talking about that, but losing that game, taking away a little bit. Okay, we don't need to feel that undefeated burden, or is that not even that wasn't even a thing either?
No, it just sucked losing the game. Period.
Yeah.
And especially in that fashion, because Ocho Cinco, Chad Johnson, he promised to win that game, right? And we knew we should have won that game. And our brother, Warfield was talking about like, daggone, if I had just covered a dude on it, I forgot what happened. There was a mix-up, I guess, as far as like communicating with each other. As far as who they were supposed to cover, is the reason they scored a touchdown. But we were just pissed because we lost the game.
Yeah. Especially in the way, obviously Chad Johnson making comments before the game. It's like, okay, that's the kind of stuff right there. It's like, oh man, like, and he promised it, and then he ends up doing it. Ugh. Rough.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.